Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started today. Again, thank you guys for being here. Let's go ahead and get started. Got a lot to cover today, and so want to get started. So first of all, let's just talk about today's agenda. What we're going to cover today. Go through some introductions. Just cover some of the plans for the webinar today. We're going to talk a little bit about current environment and client impact, like kind of what's going on out there today with remote working, and how have some of our clients been impacted. We polled them, have got some feedback for everybody. We're going to talk a little bit about digital transformation and cloud adoption framework. Obviously, current events have forced and are moving a lot of people in this direction. We're going to kind of talk about best practices and things to think about, in moving in this direction. We're going to talk about some of the tools that are available that many of our customers are utilizing or have been utilizing, some that are moving in this direction to help with just normal day-to-day operations, but certainly to prepare themselves for remote working and supporting their team and their employees in a remote work type of environment while still remaining, secure and productive. And then hopefully we'll have some time for some questions and everything at the end of this. So looking forward to it. So my name is Steve Reed. I'm Director of Sales here at KTL Solutions. Look forward to presenting, content today. Some of you I may know, and we have a lot of customers and current customers as well as prospective customers, hopefully on the phone and are on the call today, and they're covering many states. So we look forward to talking with you and providing you some useful information. I've got Lily Liu on the phone. Lily is our marketing coordinator here at KTL Solutions. She's going to be also monitoring chat windows so that if you have questions that you have as we go through the content today, obviously she can help me bring those to my attention. We can try to address those questions either during the session or at the end, and we'll get back with you. We are recording this today, so anything that we cover today, we'll be sending this out really within probably a day or 2 days with a follow-up with not only the deck that I'm going to go through today with you with some of the reference material, but also the recording as well. So if you want to rewatch it or share it with other people of your team, please feel free to do that and do that. So we're looking forward to it. So let's just go ahead and dive into this. So today, this is kind of where most of us are, depending on which state you're in. Our governors issued stay-at-home orders in Maryland, Virginia, and DC. I think the official ones came out on the 30th. I think some states and even locally here kind of maybe started a little bit prior to that. Certainly, California and New York. So, across the country, we've all been kind of operating in this, remote working environment as it relates to these stay-at-home orders, and trying to continue to do our day-to-day business, support our current customers, your current customers, produce the products that we produce and services we produce, and trying to do it in a remote fashion, and having employees that can work in a remote fashion. And we're doing that. So it's presented a lot of challenges, for a lot of customers, and in doing that, and that's what we're going to kind of talk through today. So that's where we've been, and that's kind of, at least in Maryland where we are, we're still kind of operating under that stay-at-home order. But certainly the federal government, CDC, has created and developed kind of a phased process to reopening American businesses. Some states are actually already starting this process, and created this 3-phase process. We're not going to go through each one of these in detail today, but it obviously starts with some seeing declining hospitalizations and a declining new cases reported, and as they meet certain levels over like a 2-week period, they can move to the next phase, which then allows you to open up more things, potentially essential travel, and non-essential travel, maybe some going back to the offices, public gatherings, different things like that, and you can move up in these phases as certain criteria are met. but it also outlines that if you certain criteria is going in the wrong direction, you may have to go back to certain phases. So these phases are out. States are kind of going and doing a state by state type of decision on how they're opening, and some of these reopenings are starting. But again, we've got this kind of phased approach. And, so the question becomes, what does all this mean? We're, at least in our state, we're operating in this shutdown. Other states and people on the call, some of their states may be, starting to open. But what does it mean for all of us today? And I think the key is that remote working is probably here to stay, and that companies need to be prepared. Because I think that even though we're in this order today, a lot of people feel like that we're going to have these scenarios where, it's going to come back slow, or there could be other cases or other things that may flare up or come back, or we don't know yet. And companies' ability to support remote working, support their employees in a remote working environment is going to continue to be something that they need to think about and plan for. And that's what our goal today is to discuss and outline some of these goals and outline some of these tools that could be used to help you and your company support your team. So this is maybe how you all feel or have felt over the last month and a half, as we have been dealing in a lockdown. And depending on in your role, if you're in IT or in other operations roles, how do you manage and deal with this remote working environment? We probably have all felt this way over the last month or so. But what we did is we reached out to some of our current customers, and we asked them, was your company prepared for remote working? And how were you prepared? And what were your biggest challenges? So we just tried to do a poll so we could share today, not knowing everybody that's going to be on the call today, but we reached out and just tried to get a feeling for how has all of this impacted you? And here's what we found. So out of the questions, the customers we polled, and they were from different industry types, different sizes, some, big customers of, say, in excess of 6,000 employees to some as small as, 5 or 6 employees. But it was pretty broad range of customer types and industries. And out of that, about 65% of them said no, they weren't ready. 25% said yes, we were, and felt like they were ready, and they've had minimal impact. And 10 said somewhat, meaning that some things were working, some things weren't working, but that they were somewhat prepared for what they were doing. Now, out of that, then we asked them, okay, overall, like, what were your challenges? What were the key things when that stay-at-home order came down and you started having to tell your employees to work from home? What were the biggest challenges that you had? And I didn't put them in any particular order, but one of them that came up almost across the board was not enough laptops for employees. I think most companies have probably some remote workers, and people had laptops, or were maybe working in that format, but had large numbers of people that were still working at desktop, and did not have laptops or the ability to have equipment to work from home or in a remote environment. So that was a big challenge for a lot of the customers that we talked to. The other was, while they could get email and maybe have access to some email in a remote environment, many of their users had problems accessing on-prem or non-cloud applications when they weren't in the office. Didn't either have significant or enough VPN type capabilities, or didn't even have it set up to be able to do that. So that was a big problem for a lot of companies. The other was phone system. Many of them did not have the ability to forward phone calls, did not have a voice over IP system or some way that people outside the office can make and receive phone calls as if they were sitting at the office. So dealing with the phone issues was a big problem. And then also, when you're working in this remote environment, how do you communicate with your team other than email? What were they had some limiting conference type capabilities, whether that was video conferencing or just dial-in phone conferencing, and not enough licenses. So they had a lot of problems around that. So clearly, some companies were able to support some level, maybe of remote working. But when you all of a sudden have to say, okay, you have to send 500 people home to work now, and how are you going to do that in a remote working environment? Many companies just weren't prepared, and that was kind of the feedback that we were getting. Now, we also asked them, like, prior to COVID-19, were you planning more cloud adoption? Were you maybe planning on doing some things, or kicking off some initiatives and maybe moving in this direction? And the responses that we got were, yes, we were, but we weren't far enough along, meaning that we had started some processes, maybe some workloads had moved, but we're still, we weren't far enough along to make it like this not a painless process. Yeah, we already moved, some of them indicated, yeah, we already migrated our key workloads. They were there, and most of those were the people that answered yes, that they were ready and didn't feel like they had any significant, challenges. And then there was the third, which is, and many of us may have been there, but it was like, no, but we are now. So many of them just said, no, we weren't doing anything related to the cloud or digital transformation, but obviously based on what's happening, we are moving in that direction now. So two funny things I want to just share with you is that, and hopefully neither one of these explain or describe your company, but you may feel this way. So one of the questions that came up is, who led your digital transformation at your company? Was it your CEO? Was it your CTO? Or was it COVID-19? And I would happen to say that while some companies were probably on a roadmap or moving in a direction of a digital transformation or cloud adoption or moving some of these things, they obviously are moving much, much faster today in light of COVID-19. So I have a feeling COVID-19 has probably has impacted many customers or changed priorities quite a bit. And then the other one is, hopefully none of you all were ever in this meeting room where it just said, digital transformation's years away, and I don't see it, our company having to change anytime soon. And of course, there's the COVID-19 wrecking ball coming. So, and I think many other companies have felt that way. We have touched base with many of those companies that weren't prepared, weren't ready, and are trying to migrate and move very, very quickly in some direction to be able to support these type of environments. So anyway, it's a couple funny little things there, and but maybe some of it has some truth and resonates with some of you on the call today. So again, digital transformation goals, I think the focus there is, what is digital transformation? It's a big catchword. A lot of people talk about it. And it's really to use technology to solve traditional problems, and, and trying to integrate technology into every area of the business. And the goal is, obviously, you want to, if done right, the digital transformation not only allows your employees and people to work more effectively, but ultimately that translates into increasing value to your customers. So that's the focus of digital transformation. A couple key things out of the outcome of this, which kind of resonates pretty closely to the percentages we showed you early in our presentation, was that about 70% of the companies that were working on digital transformation, but they weren't far enough along. So that was some feedback that we got from our existing customers, that they were moving, they were trying to move in this direction, but they weren't far enough into the process to really minimize the impact of COVID-19. No doubt, COVID-19 has expedited digital transformation. Go back to the picture of the people sitting in the office and the wrecking ball coming. So it's clearly has sped up and shortened timelines for a lot of companies to get prepared for this, and expose some areas of maybe not being prepared. And the key piece here in the last two bullets is that, digital transformation's really never over. One is technology moves at a very, very fast rate, and things are constantly changing. So really, digital transformation, not something you just check off the list and move on. It really becomes part of a culture, or part of an ongoing kind of a process that you really have to go through, and really needs to become just part of an overall plan that companies get prepared for and make a part of everything that they're doing. So let's just talk through a little bit as it relates to digital transformation and cloud adoption. So, when you look at this, there are key events that typically drive digital transformation and cloud adoption. One, there's critical business events. You've got merger acquisitions, you've got data center exits. You could have increased regulatory compliance changes. We work a lot with customers in the they're government contractors and they need to be in a compliant environment, and they can't maybe create that compliant environment in an on-premise network, and they need to be, for example, in Microsoft's government cloud. So we work with them in those types of things. So there are, data sovereignty and regulatory compliance requirements that may push things in that. There could be, other problems in your IT infrastructure that are very unstable or have created some disruptions, and you're looking to get into a more stable type of environment. So those are some critical business events. You have other migration motivations around cost savings, maybe the ability to scale up and scale down very, very quickly. Trying to do things like that to meet market demands. And then you just have innovation. Maybe there's new technology or new things that are being created, and you need to drive new technology and some new transformation there. So people adopt more, do more digital transformation, and do more in the way of a cloud adoption type of strategy. Now, there's probably one thing missing here that is also what events lead to this, and it's COVID-19. So that's not in the 3 columns of that list, but there's no doubt that at least today that has been added to the list and is definitely driving a lot of the customers that we're working with today and what some of their questions are. So the key thing is that as you're moving in this direction, and maybe you've identified we need to move here, COVID-19 has impacted our organization negatively and exploited or exposed some weaknesses that we have in terms of our ability to work remote and in events like this, and how do we ensure continuity of operations and these types of things. But you can't just jump very, very quickly. I mean, you can, but the goal is that you really have to kind of create a strategy. And if you don't have a strategy, you're going to get into high costs because you may move down a direction that becomes unproductive. You may deploy resources that are excessive, and you all of a sudden start spending more money than you need to over provision and do more things that are necessary. So hopefully a strategy will help you focus on your costs. It also helps you create your standards and decision framework, so you can measure your outcomes, and you can measure your success and look at what you're doing, and then obviously having stated outcomes so that you can measure success at the end. So the goal is you really got to have a strategy to go about this. You can't, you don't want to go about it, really in an unplanned way. The goal is to work with, internally with your own operations team, your own IT team, and create a strategy, and potentially also work with other partners, your IT partners, to help define these strategies, help define these goals, and do that. So that's a very important part of the process. Well, I wanted to spend a little time here before we talk to some of the tools. It is important just for you to have a strategy. Your strategy should address kind of ongoing cloud opportunities. What are your standards? What are going to be your cloud policies? What are some of your expected benefits, and outcomes, and how do you measure them? You've got to look at, how do you leverage either software of SaaS, PaaS, or IaaS type services, which is, and which workloads do you move into those areas, and how do you leverage, and which ones make the most sense for you, not only from an operational perspective, but from a financial perspective. So you've got to just go through these things, outline these things, and really use those as starting to plan and create your strategy and your goals and how you measure success in these types of environments, and do that. So you got to kind of do it in a planned way. So that, it's a little bit of the process of just getting the planning started and doing that. So we wanted to talk about that just a little bit at this phase. Now, so the next thing is, let's just transition now into what are some of the tools that are out there today that our customers that have successfully deployed, that have helped them weather this storm. And then in addition, what are some of the tools that existing customers and new customers are looking at to address the need for this remote work type of environment. Now, even pre-COVID, okay, there was always a little bit of an internal friction between users and IT. Okay, users want systems that are really simple to use. They're flexible, they're mobile, they technologically advanced, have all the bells and whistles, and basically they can, users can do whatever what they need to do and have the flexibility. But IT's goal is obviously they've got to, from a company and a corporate standpoint, they need tools that are easy to manage, that provide really top-notch security. And if you're in a compliant environment, financial, government, so forth, that you can also meet the compliance requirements that are out there. So there's this, always this little push-pull it's existed even in a pre-COVID environment, but even in today's environment, as companies have tried to push and rapidly react to remote working, these same types of friction are existing today. And there's obviously, you got to try to find the balance between those. So the goal is we're trying to look at, what's the modern desktop look like, and what are the goals, and trying to create and meet the needs of both the users as well as IT, and creating that environment. So what you're looking for is, the modern desktop's got to be productive, so it addresses the needs of users, and it's got to be secure, so that it addresses the needs of IT. And the goal of that, and the product that we work mostly with, is called Microsoft 365, which is the combination of Windows 10, Office 365, and the Enterprise and Mobility Suite. We're going to talk about that a little bit more as we go through this, but those are the things that are really providing the highly productive tools that come with Office 365 that all of us are used to in terms of email and content creation and those types of things, but really are also bringing in the operating capabilities of Windows 10 and the EMS suite that really help IT in terms of creating and providing a secure environment as well. Okay, so again, better teamwork is productivity with Microsoft 365. Obviously, you have the ability to support mobile worker support. Not only means like outside the office, but it also means being able to connect from anywhere on any device and have access to the tools that people need, that you can collaborate externally, not only with, collaborating internally with your team, but also externally, potentially with outside partners or customers or those types of things. So the tools are there within Microsoft 365. You have enterprise grade security, which we're going to cover here in just a little bit, enabling access to only those who need it, and making sure you're blocking the people that don't, and controlling the company assets. And then it's just it can all be done in real time. So those are the tools that you're really looking for. On the security side, we can't start any kind of cloud discussion without security. But with any of these solutions, you've got to be able to work and defend against advanced cyber threats. Within Microsoft 365, you have advanced threat analytics, and there's also advanced threat protection type capabilities that are embedded in the solution. You can protect sensitive information, meaning that you can control with Azure AIP and code and tag data and protect how that data, who can see it, who can view it, can it be downloaded, printed, forwarded, everything that you need, companies need to be able to do to protect and make sure that their data is protected and company assets are not, going where they don't need to go. And then one of the key pieces is that we're seeing more and more is the ability to secure devices, so that you have some sort of mobile device management tool, which would be Intune in the Microsoft 365 solution, that allows you to secure those devices that are connecting to your company network and the company assets, so that you have the ability to control that, whether that's phones, whether that's tablets, whether that's those computers, that the company has the ability to manage that and be able to have access to that and protect the data that they need to protect. So IT is looking for those things, and M365 has a lot of those tools in it that really provides, enterprise grade security solutions. Now, the users obviously, they want to be able to collaborate. They want to be able to do their jobs and work with, internally with their team members and externally with customers. They want to be able to work on any device. Now, this person's sitting at a coffee shop. I don't think many of us are doing that today, but that is outside al fresco at a coffee shop potentially. That those are maybe days will be coming. But you want to be able to work from any device at any time. That you have files and projects that are all in an easily accessible location, so you can find them, work on them, collaborate with your team. You can host and conduct online meetings like we are here today. Today we're using Teams Live Event, which is part of Teams. We're hosting in our live event tool within Teams. But you can host really online meetings for those types of tools, and obviously still meeting device management and always on security, which is very, very important. So M365 basically, as we talked about, is the combination of Office 365, EMS, and Windows 10 Enterprise. So in here, and we're going to share this deck out. I'm not going to go through in depth with all of these different features, but you have on the left the traditional Office 365 suite in terms of email, calendar, the Office suite, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all of that. You now have Teams that's part of that, which becomes part of it for video sharing. And although this slide says Skype, I need to update that. So it has that content. You have EMS, which is the Enterprise Mobility and Security, as you can see, creates and offers tools to help control identity and access management with Azure Active Directory, mobile productivity, being able to manage that with Intune, information protection, and identity-driven security. And then with Windows 10 Enterprise, you have a complete set of enhanced security tools that are available there to help manage devices and provide additional, security. Then you have E5, which is everything outlined in E3, but is bringing some additional tools to bear as well. And different users in your organization may need or may want these additional requirements. And depending on if you're in certain compliant environments, you may want these types of licenses to provide additional conditional access type policies or additional logging type requirements that may be required for access and who's accessing what and when they're accessing it. All of these types of tools are done. Azure Information Protection P2 can provide document classification and coding, not only in the cloud environment and documents that are created through Office 365, but it can actually also have reach into your on-premise network and help you code and classify and tag documents that may be in on-premise file shares as well. So, and help you in terms of the controlling and encrypting and code and flagging of that data. So anyway, a lot of great tools here that are available, and those are part of this, and it's a part of an important suite to provide not only the collaboration and access tools that users want to be able to be productive and do what they need to do, but to be able to provide the IT and the security solutions required as well to make IT and the company happy in terms of protecting everything that's out there. Now, one of the things we're going to share when we share out the deck is a really handy kind of plain comparison matrix here. So you may be able to look on this chart and say, hey, here's the plan I have today, and these are the, I'm in Business Premium or I'm in Office 365 E3, and by upgrading to Microsoft 365 or any of those solutions, what am I getting? What are the additional features I'm getting and adding by moving up to those levels and combining these other SKUs to help enhance not only the user experience but also improve my security posture. Yeah. So and to talk about business calling and business voice. Obviously, that was one of the areas that some of our customers had a lot of problems with, is they did not have the ability to make and receive phone calls outside the office. They did not have a phone system that really supported that kind of working, which obviously became problematic. Users did not want to be making and receiving phone calls on their cell phones, and so this became very, very problematic. So Microsoft's recently come out with a solution called Microsoft 365 Business Voice, and it's kind of a combined SKU or combined license that brings together a lot of different tools around cloud PBX and domestic and international calling and audio conferencing. So they've brought all of these different tools together, but we're really trying to take, the old type of phone system, which, for today, for our customers that were having problems that had not moved to a voice over IP type of system, they're dealing with an on-prem PBX, or the calling that they have is tied to a desk phone. It was really, really problematic. So they had a problem being able to support or handle calling and operations outside of it. They couldn't call from any device in any location. They didn't, were using multiple apps to support that. So it really became a tool that was, has identified a need, and many of our customers had moved to voice over IP, but with Business Voice, it's really bringing to leverage an all-in-one communication plan, and it's easy and intelligent calling. It's delivered from the cloud, with Microsoft's cloud, which has a 99.9% uptime. It's a single unified solution that's there, so you don't have to call the phone company or this or that. It's all supported within one environment, which definitely has its pluses when you're trying to figure out any issues or problems, or being able to make it very, very easy to manage. So this is out there. This is pretty much brand new in terms of what they've offered. It is a combination of some existing SKUs, but by combining them into one new SKU or licensing package, it's at a lower price than what it is to sometimes buy it individually. And really, it becomes an all-in-one communication platform. You got calling and chat, you got built-in audio conferencing, and the ability to make outbound calls directly from Teams. So you live in Teams, you're chatting and collaborating with your internal team members. You're working on teams and projects that are out there. You can host, conference calls, video conference calls, or just phone conference calls with customers or external people. And then if you just need to make normal outbound phone calls or receive inbound calls, to a direct dial number or to the phone number for business purposes, you can do all of that directly from Teams, and it all just operates from there. So it's one single app, and you can do all of it within that suite as well. And so really, it just is the goal is Microsoft is moving Teams into to be your primary hub for where you operate, and which is clearly kind of for us on our team, where we're going. We are living in Teams pretty much all the time now, not only because we're doing meetings there, but in terms of collaborating and working with team members, we're doing that. So it's clearly the place you can do collaboration, chat, and work within in your organization. It's areas where you can host video calls and all of that's out there, and be able to do that as well. You can clearly just make and receive regular business calls in Teams, and it's also the place where files can be. And if you have them stored, this has direct access to SharePoint. The back end of Teams works very, very closely with SharePoint, so you can have access to all your team files and organization things there. And then you can build out certain Power Apps and flows for vacation requests, returns, different things like that you may have that may be a part of your business. So Teams can really be a source for all of that information. So again, Microsoft 365 is really bringing the tools to the table for the user to create those great and fantastic collaboration tools that we're all used to, bringing together EMS and Windows 10 to bring together more security features for IT and corporate IT management that are very, very important. That those are embedded tools that are part of M365, and then by adding potentially business voice or voice type solutions to Microsoft 365 and to your Teams environment, you really now are bringing you've replaced a meeting and video conferencing type tool that you may be using another third-party solution. You've now brought in your inbound and outbound calling capabilities for business purposes. So you've potentially eliminated that solution, and the ability now to do and make and receive calls, host meetings from any device, anywhere, at any time, even your mobile device. That you can do that. So it's very, very flexible system, and really becomes supports external work, but this works extremely well within the office as well. It's not just a remote working solution. So anyway, going to transition into the last tool, which is called Windows Virtual Desktop. Microsoft's kind of coined a phrase called desktop as a service. And we're seeing a very big movement into this direction. One is we're seeing it, and basically desktop of a service is allowing users utilizing personal devices. Maybe they don't have company issued phones or computers, and are need to just all of a sudden something's come up and they need to work remotely, and they don't have that. They actually can come in through a managed environment that's in Azure, through a virtual desktop type of environment that allows these devices to connect in, to authenticate them, to broker them, balance, do all of the requisite load balancing, and then providing them the access and the ability to then access corporate information, but in a secure way through this virtual desktop environment, and providing the security without having to manage somebody's individual personal computer or those types of things. They can come in, be authenticated, come into the secure environment, and then they can access into either environments that could be hosted in the cloud in Azure, or it could be hosted on premise, and they can be configured and structured a couple different ways. So those tools and everything are there to be able to do that. Talked with a customer that is a bank. They all of a sudden have about 1,100 employees, and were pushed when they started closing lobbies, closing down the bank, and people had to work remotely. They had their customer service representatives that were, taking inbound calls, status of my account, credit card payments, credit card things, but these 1,100 employees, they had to quickly deploy 800 people to be able to work remote, to receive phone calls, to have access to bank databases and records, account information, all of these types of things for these employees to be able to work from home. And they were able to deploy that with a virtual desktop environment, so that individual users, because they couldn't issue 800 new computers to people to work from home, so people were able to actually access their work environment through their own personal computers that they had, coming in through a virtual desktop environment in a secure way, and have access to all of the same banking information and bank database and account information that they did as if they were sitting at their desk. And they were able to do that with not only their desktop environment and the access to corporate systems, but they were also able to do it with the phones, so the normal call routing and everything. So it became without that, it was, they were not going to be able to continue to service their customers the way they needed to. And so now they've got, their customer service reps able to do that in a very secure way. Now, they're in a banking and financial institution, and obviously compliance areas that are compliant and have high level compliance requirements. This becomes a very, very good tool to easily deploy, and it provides a great user experience. It has really enhanced security that's out there in terms of what we talked about with M365, and a lot of built-in security within Azure. Very simplified to manage, meaning it can be scaled up and down very quickly. Some companies can have a virtual environment, have it configured, have it ready. It could be there and ready, and in a somewhat dormant format, or with only a few users using it on a daily basis. But then in the event of a major lockdown event like this, it can easily be scaled up, resources can be added, and all of a sudden you can have 800 employees working from home in a completely scalable type of environment to be able to do that. So it's it can be a contingency or a continuity type of plan that can be created, and it can be used in a big way on an ongoing basis, or certainly in the event of key events like what we're living in today. Now, some of the scenarios, clearly security and regulations. Obviously, the bank example I gave you was in the financial services area. Healthcare could be one. This is an area we're working with very, very closely with a lot of our government contracting clients. The VDI capabilities is not quite ready for the Azure government environment. It is coming. It's becoming very, very, they're ramping it or federating it very quickly to Azure government. It is available in the public Azure environment. They are getting it federated for government very quickly, because this is an area where a lot of our government contracting clients would want to create a secure enclave for classified or controlled data, and be able to do that. And virtual desktop is going to be one of those ways to potentially be able to leverage that and do that. So we're hoping, and that's going to be coming very, very quickly. As I said, it's elastic. It can be scaled up and scaled down very, very quickly. It can address short-term employee type needs and contractor and partner access. And again, supports BYOD and mobile devices, or ones that you have at home and you just quickly have to start using them. It's good for call centers, branch workers, different things like that. And it can be definitely designed and created for specialized workloads. So anyway, so think of remote application and desktop as a service type scenarios, depending on your needs, depending on your use cases, depending on what your IT infrastructure looks like. That may be a good environment for you to consider or evaluate. And so our goal, as I said today, was to really outline what are some of your options. Obviously, our options are focusing on the tools that are available within Microsoft. So with M365, really being able to provide a space and the tool set that allows you to collaborate very, very easily, not only with the content creation side of Office, but with Teams and the ability to chat and work within a team environment, but also business voice to be able to handle and host video calls and make outgoing calls and conduct the day-to-day business that you have to, but then also provide the security tools that you need to manage devices, to manage company assets and content that is being created, and threats and all of those types of things from cyber attacks. So the tools are there for that purpose, and then also potentially desktop as a service or virtual desktop type of scenarios. These are discussions that we're having with our customers, had been having with our customers that were already kind of moving in this direction. Many of them, we had to accelerate the plan, obviously, based on current circumstances. And we're in discussions with customers now that weren't prepared and are kind of now have identified that they need a better, more flexible, manageable, scalable solution to easily be able to do all of these things that they need to be able to do in a remote working environment. Whether it's here to stay or not, everybody has different opinions, but it is something that I think most companies have to be prepared for and are looking to try to make sure they're not caught again in an unprepared fashion. So we wanted to just talk about these options and tools, present these to you. We really just talked about them in a very high level format, and trying to make sure to touch the service, create a vision for you guys, understanding what was capable, what was available. And our goal would be is that if there's content that you found here, if you may be an existing customer and you may say, we need to deploy more of these other features around business voice. We need to better utilize Teams. We need some more of these security features, onto our Office 365 environment, or we want to look at a virtual desktop environment. Feel free to definitely reach out to us, reach out to your account manager, and let's begin that discussion. Secondly, the other is that if you're dealing with these issues or problems and your company wasn't prepared and you want to talk with us about this and let's understand your current environment, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And we would love for you to begin the discussion and see if there's a way how we can help you get prepared and get ready so you can support your team and your company with these types of remote working type solutions, and see what we can do to help. So anyway, so I think we may have a few questions that have come in, and to go through. And but Lily, before I kick it over to see if you have any, I'm going to jump in and address a few of them, if you don't mind. One of the questions that that came up was a question around, in the phone system on business voice, if a company has an existing phone number and has existing phone lines, can those be transferred over into the new business voice system? And the answer to that is yes. So there is a process that in I think almost all cases, it's required that phone providers have to allow phone numbers to be portable, so that if you change providers for your phone service, that those could be migrated and ported over into your new business voice or in Teams-based calling solution. So users would be able, from a company standpoint, you would be able to continue to make and receive phone calls using the same business lines that you were doing. You could also provide direct dial numbers. So if you have specific direct dial numbers for users, all of those numbers can be ported over and configured as a part of the business voice system. And there's also, as a part of the phone system SKU, one of the other questions around also business voice is the ability to define and create in your cloud PBX or in the phone system the same type of call routing type plans that you have in an on-premise PBX or maybe in your current cloud provider, that you can manage and handle those types of scenarios. So those were a couple questions I saw pop up. Lily, were there any other questions that have that came up that I have not addressed at this point?
I think there was one regarding one was talking about one asked if you configured this video. One was asking more about business voice as well. Is there a maximum or minimum licensing associated with it, or seat count?
No, you can. The business voice is an add-on that can be added on to almost all of the current Office 365 and M365 SKUs, and there is not a minimum seat count associated with business voice. You could have it for one or two people in the company. The maximum is 3 for the business voice combined SKU. It is 300 users. Once you move from 300 users, you move in. You can't use the business voice SKU anymore, and it moves into and then it moves into the enterprise SKU for business voice if you have more than 300 users. But there is no minimum associated with utilizing it. Okay.
We have another question that just came in, and it's asking, when you send out the content, can you ID what services are available in GCC High?
We sure will. Yep. And we can also include for some of our GCC High, for those of you on the call that don't know what GCC High is the government community cloud, and it's what's called the high version of it, primarily for DoD and aerospace contractors. One of the areas that we operate, they have a full Office 365 environment there, but some of the features that exist in the public cloud don't exist in that cloud, and there are some features that don't exist there. But yes, we can include that. We will highlight that, as well as an updated roadmap of those features that don't have parity in GCC High. What's the timeline of those? So we definitely will do that. So
great. Okay. That's about all the questions we have so far.
Okay, great. Great. Okay, again, I thank everybody for joining today. Thank you for this. Be on the lookout for our email with the copy of this deck and the follow-up material, as well as the video. Please feel free to share it out with anybody. We appreciate you again being here, and hope everybody stays safe out there. And I know we're all looking forward to things reopening and us getting back out there and doing some things that are almost normal to what we used to do. So again, thank you. Everybody stay safe, and have a great rest of your week.